because we did see them play. So I think UCLA did play Peach and Warrior, but I can't quite remember. Seen a lot of decks over the first 4 weeks of the Collegiate Hearthstone Championship. Moving into game number 3 here. Simon Fraser going to throw out the Druid once again, and UCLA is going to throw out the Demon Handlock.
I can tell you what I can remember is this matchup from earlier where Druid was struggling to have the right minions on the board during the whole matchup and continued to stall turn after turn. But one of the ways that you can get around that is by having, I don't know, turn 3 Emperor Thorson.
With combo already in your hand.
Which I think is going to get mulliganed, but the bigger part here is that they're getting a 5/5 on board that will discount all of their mana.
The question here is, how bold is the Jor dude?
We're keeping Force Nature Savage Roar, boys.
Is he bold enough?
He's not bold enough.
Will he make the choice?
He made the right choice. But now they even have options on top of that. Yeah. The one thing that is always frightening for me to think about is when someone has to decide whether or not they play turn 3 Emperor Thorson. That is a frightening thought.
Yeah.
Look at him. He's like, what do we do? Our hand is too good.
The only thing that would have made that moment better was if he had gave us an eyebrow raise. Well, I mean, he's curving out nicely.
Yeah, I think you hold on to it. I don't think that turn 3 Emperor Thorson's getting beat in this spot. If your opponent doesn't check it, you were looking at massive turns afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, you're looking at some styles of unbeatable things if Emperor Thorson does not get answered.
Yeah. And UCLA, I mean, a lot of times you're happy to not see that ramp, but they're thinking, what is going on in that hand?
Yeah. But right now, I mean, this deck is designed to life tap twice when it's going first. So this is the Rude Awakening moment.
Whoa!
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine if they had that last turn? Or on turn 1 even. Like,
on turn 1, the double innervate into...
the turn 1 Emperor Thorson is like drop the phone, fall out of your chair good.
Yeah.
Like, that card is almost unbeatable on turn 1.
One of the players from UCLA actually winced when he saw that. He says, ooh. Like, he physically felt pain when he saw Emperor Thorson played on the board because they know that this is going to get 2 turns of value.
Yeah, they're about to physically feel a little bit more pain here, by the way. Simon Fraser has plenty of gas in the tank behind this Emperor Thorson.
The thing is, they want to sort of play around some types of AoE because they don't want to lose this entire board to something like a Hellfire or, you know, a Shadow Flame. So they really have to think out these turns and think, you know, what's the most efficient way to utilize all of these gifts that Emperor Thorson has given me?
By the power of Ragnaros.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, step 1 is probably taunt Druid to Claw and make sure that Emperor Thorson is protected as long as possible.
And the next turn, play everything else.
Oh my gosh, TJ, how on earth is UCLA supposed to win this game?
Yeah. I don't know. Next turn they could play all 3 of those creatures.
I mean, look at their faces too. They're going, "Wow, what do we do?"
What if those are combo pieces? Is what I'd be scared of if I was the Warlock player in this scenario.
I don't think you can worry about that. I think, in fact, if they have combo pieces, you're just dead. Like you have. Let's go to game number 4 and hope for the best. If their hand is just minions, which is basically the only kind of situation they're going to win in, how do they win it? That's really the big question here. Honestly, it may start. Well, I was going to say it may start with hoping you get Lord Jaraxxus and then trying to taunt it up. But it's going to be Mal'Ganis instead. But even the Mal'Ganis is checked.
And now that Hellfire is gone, Simon Fraser can be a little bit more confident about flooding the board with some small stuff.
Yeah, now, that being said, UCLA will have the answer with Ancient Watcher and Shadowflame afterwards. You know, the play that I immediately saw was Savage Combatant, swipe, innervate the hero power, and take care of the Mal'Ganis. 0.5 more damage upstairs. If they do that, all they have on the board is 4 health minions. And so UCLA has Ancient Watcher, Shadowflame back behind that. That opens the wave for both the piloted Shredders. Mm-hmm. Can they recover that situation? That's really where this game is headed. They could trade in the Emperor Thorson this turn. I don't think that's an impossibility.
Yeah, trading in the Emperor Thorson. You've already gotten a lot of value out of that. You can already play almost your whole hand. the value you get from...
Oh, yeah, they're trading them in. They said it's been enough. Pilot Shredder's going to join the Savage Combatant and make sure that they can continue to keep this pressure up. They think it's done enough, and honestly, a 5-2 body, it may have done enough at this point.
I think it did. And still a strong board staring back at UCLA here. The thing is, can they stabilize in time before, combos drawn for Sat and Fraser? They might be scared of it already.
This is also 16 points of damage with the swipe.
And the hero power.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA is just staring down 12 right now.
Yeah.
And it's turn 6. And they're at 17.
I mean, it's surprising that this doesn't happen, or this isn't that rare. Druids can just do some crazy things. Even if they just had like something like an Innervate Shade into Wild Growth into Piloted Shredder, we'd still be looking at, not quite as dire of a situation, but still, a situation that they're looking at a lot of damage very early on in the game.
That being said, though, Jordy doesn't look that calm in this situation. He knows that there's a lot of bad stuff that can happen for him in this spot. I think this is probably some good news for him. Yeah,
right.
So this game's gonna keep going. I mean, they have found some ways to combat what's going on. Is 2 Pilot Shredders gonna be enough to get this job done? And then the other question is, do we keep pushing damage? Are we afraid of Molten Giants at all? If they push their opponents too low, they're going to activate those Molten Giants, and this game could easily turn around on the back of that.
Yeah, at this point, I'd say, you know what? You don't really have the cards to back up pushing damage. I don't think you do it. How are you going to push lethal? He's going to be sitting at, around 10 health for a long time.
At that same token, though, do you have the resources to fight that long game? Maybe you do. Your opponent hasn't really been life tapping that much last couple turns. They haven't been getting, like, a ton of value out of their cards. You do have 2 Pilot Shredders on the board and an Ancient Allure on turn 7. There's a lot of different directions this game can still take.
Yeah. There's also, it might be merit in even, swiping that Ancient Watcher. But there it looks like they're going to throw out the Darnassus Aspirant. Will they push the damage? Is the big question here. Rope's running out. I think they held.
Yeah, they're going 1 point of damage and pass. And so this puts UCLA kind of in a really dangerous spot. They're staring down 10. They know that Savage Roar is a real possibility in a situation like this. They know that Force of Nature is a real possibility. This is likely to force their hand in some way.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what Simon Fraser was trying to do with this play.
Just put as much pressure on the board, really threaten that next turn lethal, even though they don't have it.
Yeah, I mean, even though there's only 2 cards in hand, the way that they played this looks like they have a way to do something.
Yeah.
That's really the big play about this.
See what pops out of these things.
Well, not too bad. You get a 3 power refunded.
Still bodies for the
Savage Roar, yeah.
And UCLA deciding whether or not they want to tap. So if they go down to 14.
Savage Roar swipe would kill them.
Savage Roar swipe.
Can they afford to not tap? That's the question I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with them. I think they got to tap here. Wow, even Azure Drake in this build. That's sort of been creeping back into some of these Druid builds.
I think a lot of Druid builds have actually been running, just completely cutting Sludge Belchers and running double Azure Drake.
Yeah, that's been pretty common too. I mean, Sludge Belcher is oftentimes a liability versus stuff like Grim Patron. So
also, when you play more early drops in Druid, you empty your hand a lot quicker than you would have in the past. So having the extra cycle in the mid game before you get to the point where you drop your Ancient Allures can really help. Since a lot of things that were cut for Darnassus Aspirant were, bigger drops, like that 5 slot, like Lotheb or Sludge Belcher.
Yep.
So having that extra Azure Drake for cycle really helps in just, prolonging, getting that Ancient Allure earlier, or, getting those crucial draws before those Ancient Allures can come down.
So UCLA kind of back in the same situation they were last turn. Savage Roar is still going to be lethal in this spot.
Yeah.
And if you, again, we talked about this earlier, if you're going to commit to playing around that, it's pretty tough to just go ahead and change directions. But with their hand, do they have an option other than to change directions right now?
No.
Yeah, that's sort of where my mind is too.
Well, they're going to be able to take out this Snow Chugger, and Emperor Thorsan is going to reduce all these cards in their hand, which are pretty crucial cards, but, is it going to be enough? What's the draw going to be? Wrath.
Gosh, what do you draw? I mean, I guess Azure Drake Swipe is totally fine play.
Sure.
You know, but again, now you're setting your opponent into that Molten Giant range, into the free Molten Giant range. Apologies. That's really the big one there.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to do.
But they've seen
here.
a Shadow Flame.
Azure Drake plus Wrath and trade in the Lance Carrier could be an option as well. You still have a big board. You can save the swipe to, you know, push through or push that damage.
Yep. I think I like that a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know, what's this Lance Carrier actually doing?
Carrier Lances, apparently.
He's chasing that butterflies. What he's really doing right now.
Yeah. What a jokester. Get to work, buddy.
Well, Ancient Allure is going to get to work instead. We're going to find out what 2 cards in here make a difference.
Oh, it was the next card.
Yeah, but here's the thing now. They have Swipe, and they have a 2-mana Swipe, and they have a 4-mana Keeper of the Grove. Do they feel comfortable pushing this damage? I think they do because of that silence draw.
Yeah. And they, like you said, they've already seen that Shadow Flame. A lot of times it's just one Shadow Flame nowadays, especially when you have to pack all those demons in the deck. You got to make cuts somewhere, and a lot of times it's one of those AoE spells.
So how does UCLA capitalize on a spot like this? You know, they could play Mountain Giant, Molten Giant, taunt up, and have 18 points of health and power.
They can play, yeah,
on the taunt side of things. Yeah, that's exactly where they're headed to.
And another question is, can Simon Fraser push through this?
Thinking of a draw.
That's it.
Yeah, well, that's definitely one of them.
I don't think that's game though. They don't have enough to push through these taunts, I don't think. All right, let's count it up. So they'd have 14 damage from the Savage Roar plus 7, which is 21, plus 3, which is 24. And they have to get through 18 points of taunt plus 26. So Savage Roars, the Force Nature Savage Roar is actually not enough.
Yeah, and it's pretty rare that's the case, but the way that the damage has to be split up in sort of the blocks that it does.
Yeah. Well, actually, even if those Giants were 8-8, if that was a Sun Fury Protector, I still don't think they'd have enough.
They wouldn't have enough, no, but they would have enough to put their opponents in just an uncomfortable spot.
They'd have enough to put them at 1 if the Giants were at 8-8. But right now, they only have enough to put them at, like, they can push. I don't think they can push any damage through, to be honest.
Well, what I'm looking at is, can they put their opponents in such an uncomfortable spot that they don't really have an option other than to kind of make super inefficient plays. And I think that's where they're headed with this. Yeah, just clear up the board. Again, make sure you put your opponent in as uncomfortable a spot as you possibly can, and then try to push for damage afterwards.
Yeah.
Wow, even going for the draw card on Wrath, so still looking for answers to potential threats that are coming out onto the board.
Uh-oh.
And this is looking like Jirax's time to me.
Yeah, putting themselves at 15.
Whoa. Okay, almost grabbed the wrong card there.
Scary. And also, since Drax cost 8 mana from the Emperor Thorsan, they will be able to play, use that hero power.
Now here's the question, though. They're only drawing 1 card a turn after that. Is it worth more to life tap and then play Jiraxis? Maybe try to pick up a taunt minion or an anti-heal bot? Or is the 6/6 worth more right now?
That's true.
And it's very rare that a random card in your deck is worth more than a 6/6. But when you're facing down the kind of pressure that Simon Fraser has been applying the whole game, you start to think twice about it. And that's really what the power of that aggressive play does, is it makes your opponent second guess situations that would normally feel very easy for them.
Yeah.
Instead, it gives them an opportunity to make an error at some point.
Yeah. It looks like that random card in their deck is going to be worth more. What's it going to be? Ancient Watcher. I would say that's not worth as much.
Well, it's the next card worth
it.
Yeah, they are closer to that card. That's really the big difference here. So Simon Fraser, I guarantee you they're feeling a little bit of heat in this situation. But they do have Shade Next Rammus to add to this board. They do get to push a single point of damage, which puts their opponent into that lethal range. But they can't close it this turn.
Yeah.
And that's where you're starting to look at it and going, did they really turn this game around back on us? Because we had about one of the best starts you could possibly get.
Yeah, and I think you just sort of have to go, oh, wow, just going to flood the board instead of putting me at 14. I mean, I guess the point of damage is pretty irrelevant. If your opponent can't deal with all the stuff that's on the board, then they're going to be within range as well. And, I mean, that's just not going to do it. I think that there's no way out of this one for UCLA.
Well, here's the thing. If they clear the board position, they have to use their face to do it, though. Yeah, I think that's it. What I was looking at is Mortal Coil. Well, here's the thing. Okay, so they get Mortal Coil a Boombot.
Hit the Shade.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're picking up what I'm putting down right now.
Yeah, but they're still going to be at 13 health from having to clear the board.
Well, hang on a second. They can draw a card off the mortal coil that facilitates them still getting through this board position.
Wow. I think that's the only way to do it. Let's see. If they can draw into a taunt,
yeah, that's exactly what they're playing for, is a taunt mini
Sunfurry
right
Protector or bust. That's a Twilight Drake.
now. And they headed to the shade.
And it went face.
Yep.
And I mean, they're gonna, stick around just to make sure that Simon Fraser actually has it, but they do.
Yeah, sigh of relief for Jordan in that spot as well. He knew that this game, despite how incredibly powerful their opening was, that it was still darn close. Hats off to UCLA for staying calm in that one and finding the right lines to get themselves into this game.
Yeah.
But 2 hats off to Simon Fraser for actually sticking it out and picking that one up.
Yeah, definitely. And those are the kinds of games with Druid and Warlock that I sort of love. You can see how the decision making plays into the outcome of that game.